it reminds you of is one of the most important rules of investing, which is don't panic. Panic is one of the worst things. If you ever want to lose money, just panic a lot. That's going to lose you a lot of money. It's going to make you afraid of everything and stress you out and probably kill you. So don't panic. You always want to stay cool. Let's see here. So I'm reading here. It says both the S&P and the NASDAQ recorded their first positive close in 7 days. The CBOE Market Volatility Index, which is the Chicago Board of Options Exchange, that's what CBOE stands for, which was up more than 30% on Monday, came down 19%. The Dow, Nike, Walt Disney, and United Technologies led the gainers. Disney will report earnings after the closing bell. Disney just made a report of their earnings, and the report was not good. The report was a case where Disney actually did not make their earnings expectations. So I'm going to look and see, but I'm willing to bet you that the value of Disney stock dropped, and let me explain why. So I'm looking here at this article. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen with you guys so you can see what I'm seeing here. Just give me a second here. All right, so let's pull this up. Got the lion here. Disney misses Wall Street expectations, but posts massive gains in direct-to-consumer. So Disney's crucial direct-to-consumer business posted major growth in the 3 months ending in June, a sign that its acquisition of a majority stake in Hulu is paying off. So I assume direct-to-consumer is basically the segment of the business. Sheesh. Shut up.
Before it was a CGI animated.
I hate when these websites just start playing video and they don't even ask you. They used to ask your permission before they start playing videos. Now they just play whatever they want. Basically, it looks like Disney has a segment of its business that's focused on going through cable companies, and cable companies paying them, I guess, a rental fee for their content. Like ESPN actually got a tremendous amount of money, for their content, because live sports is pretty valuable to cable networks. Well, since people are starting to cut the cable cord, Disney, rather than licensing content to companies like Netflix, they're going direct to the consumer, which I think is a good move, because what I have found is that when you have content creators that create content that ultimately gets distributed on somebody else's platform, their network, they tend to whittle away. The middleman whittles away at the profit margin of the content creator. Now, I don't know if this would be true for Disney because they have a lot of power, but I know that that's what happened. That's why a lot of bloggers' businesses died. A lot of bloggers saw their businesses plummet, because back maybe 8 years ago, if you were a blogger, you could go through these multi-channel marketing companies where they would actually take your they would take your stuff and basically put it on these websites, and you would get paid for it, right? Now the problem is that that what happened was the marketing company started to realize how much power they have, how much power they have to control how much money the blogger is going to get and how much money they keep. And the thing about capitalist models is that capitalist models are built on greed. They're sort of built on only paying people what you have to pay them. So what happened to bloggers, and the reason you saw a lot of Black-owned blogs just die, that they were actually doing quite well, or they had to sell out to somebody else, is because these companies that brought together the bloggers' content with the companies that wanted to market their products, they started eating away at all the profit margins. So the bloggers, before the bloggers might get, $10 for every 1,000 readers you got on your blog. And then it dropped to 8, then it dropped to 6, then it dropped to $1, then it dropped to 50 cents. And then it got to the point where bloggers were like, what's the point? I don't even want to create content anymore. And I saw this. I was on the front lines of that business, because we actually had a blog. I mean, our blog, that blog made a couple $100,000 a year. And then it just whittled down to almost nothing. So we had to find other business models. And so Disney, even though Disney's not like a regular little blogger where they're worried about, somebody else having all the market power, but Disney is a company that probably sees that, look, if we go directly to the consumer, if we don't have a middleman, then maybe we can control the margins a little bit better. So what they used to do is go through Netflix and Netflix would pay them for their content. But now they're like, well, why do we need you? We can actually go straight to the consumer. We're going to create Disney Plus, and we're going to get market share. And then because we're billing the consumer directly, we're not letting you pay for our content. We can actually control what our margins are going to look like. And so what that does is that creates problems for Netflix, Because Disney has pretty much gone in with a very long view that really, I think, worries companies like Netflix. Like Disney has gone in basically almost kamikaze style. They've gone into this industry basically saying, we'll lose, billions of dollars a year for the next 4 years. Just to get market share, just to steal market share from you. So Disney's going to come in charging $6 a month for what Netflix is currently charging $12 a month for. That's a big problem for Netflix because Netflix is in a huge amount of debt. Netflix's debt went up from $6 billion to $12 billion. So they're probably going to have to take on even more debt to try to compete with Disney. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. And also the fact that Netflix is in such insane amounts of debt tells you that all the glitters ain't gold. All the glitters ain't gold. So a lot of the strongest, most powerful companies that you see are this close to having serious financial problems. A lot of them aren't making money. WeWork has a $47 billion valuation, but they actually lose $219,000 an hour. Uber loses probably about $1 billion every month. So ultimately these companies, I don't think this is a safe way to create companies. I really don't. I think that when the market corrects itself, which it will, at some point the market's probably going to have a big correction. It's going to get its butt kicked and it may be a prolonged correction. I think you're going to start hearing about major companies that are going to go bankrupt or have severe financial problems. Now, is Netflix one of them? I don't know. I don't think Disney will be. Disney's so smart from a business standpoint. I just really would have a hard time believing Disney would ever have any problems at all. They have our household on lock. Like our kids love the Disney Channel, and every time Disney puts out a movie, somehow miraculously they always know about it. But what they're saying here is that growth in the direct-to-consumer sector lifted Disney's overall revenue 33% from the prior year, which is pretty massive. So they're collecting $20 billion, or let's see, they got $20 billion. I think that's for this quarter. That number, however, was lower than the $21 billion that Wall Street had predicted after the company's busy quarter. Net income was down 51% in the quarter, a result of ongoing investments in streaming. So they're investing heavily in their streaming services, which is causing their stock price to drop, which is causing their revenues to drop. Now, stock price is going to be affected by whether or not they think this investment in streaming is going to pay off for Disney. I think it will. I just think Disney, they just seem to own so much and they seem to be pretty efficient with it. But then again, you never know. Their direct-to-consumer segment grew 366% compared to the same period in the prior year, from 827 million to nearly 3.9 billion. That's a pretty massive growth. The company announced with quarterly earnings on Tuesday, or they announced their quarterly earnings on Tuesday. That jump is because it was the first quarter that Disney had full operational control of Hulu, following its $71 billion acquisition of most 21st Century Fox assets in March. So I don't know if anybody watches movies like Deadpool, but I was watching Deadpool the other day and I was thinking about how Deadpool I can't remember who, I think Fox owned Deadpool and they also own the X-Men. And then I would see the X-Men in the Deadpool movie. And I'm thinking, okay, now Disney owns Fox, which owns X-Men and Deadpool. So maybe you'll see, characters from the Marvel universe connecting with Deadpool and the X-Men because they're all like part of the same company now. And even Spider-Man starting to pop into these Avengers movies. And all this is business. All this is business. I mean, something that you think is small, something that you think, oh, that's great, the Black Panther's on the screen. Well, every time they create a character that solidifies itself in your brain, that's billions of dollars in revenue and ownership that they've created. So even your ideas, when you create a cartoon character and everybody knows about it, you create a slogan and everybody starts saying it, that's money. I know Miguel Nunez, who was actually in a lot of movies. He was in Joanna Man, stuff like that. And one thing that he was talking about was on the set of the movie Life. I don't know if y'all remember, but in the movie Life, his character said, "Don't be scared," right? And he just kind of said it. And right when he said it, Eddie Murphy said, you should get that trademarked because people are going to say that, like they're going to repeat that. And if you think about it, since that time, if I type "don't be scared," SCURRED, you would know what that means, right? So that's money, that's worth revenue because I could create a clothing line called "Don't Be Scared Clothing" or whatever, and it has value. And so you'd be amazed at the types of things that get trademarked, the types of things that represent major financial deals behind the scenes. Even on A Different World, a lot of us feel like A Different World is a black show. No, it's not a black show. A Different World is not a black show because that's not a show that's owned by black people. And I know characters from I know people that were on that show. And one thing about A Different World is that the characters on the show, they want to bring the show back. You know, I'm friends with Daryl Bell, who played Ron, Dwayne Wayne's best friend, and Daryl said that they would love to bring it back, but they can't bring it back because they don't own it. They don't even own Whitley's voice, even Whitley's accent on A Different World. Jasmine Guy cannot use Whitley's accent without paying Warner Brothers a lot of money to use it. She would have to ask for permission to use the accent. So when you're watching these movies and you're taking your family to go see the next Black Panther movie, and then you see the Black Panther talking to Captain America, and then Captain America talking to one of the characters from the Avengers, just know that these are multi-billion dollar deals that have to be done before these characters can even interact on the screen. Right. So just try to think that way. And what that'll do is that'll help you kind of understand how investment works and why Fox or why Disney might have gone and paid $71 billion for all of Fox's assets. When they were buying the assets, some of the multi-billion dollar assets they were buying were literally characters that are nothing more than a figment of your imagination, but you know who they are. Like, you know who the X-Men are because somebody specifically created that concept and went through a branding process so that you would know who the X-Men are, what their personality traits are, what their special powers are, and all these other things. And so these things actually are worth money. So anyway, if you want to know a little side note, a little trivia, my favorite, one of my favorite characters is actually Black Lightning. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that show, but it's a very good show. And Black Lightning is owned by the CW network, but Black Lightning is a great show, and the writers on the show, there's a husband-wife team. I can't remember their names, but Akil, something like that. Akil and his wife, something. I can't remember their names, but they do a great job with this show. So if you want to see a good show, go watch Black Lightning. You'll love it. So we're going to get started in a second, but I want to remind everybody, don't forget that we're going to do, that I'm going to be in Los Angeles, and I'm going to do this live. I'm going to do an investment seminar live. We're going to do the whole masterclass live in one day. So if you want to join us in Los Angeles, feel free to join us there. You can go to drboycelosangeles.com. You can actually fly in, and I would love to see you guys. So feel free to come on in. All right. So what I want to do is show you guys how to get access to the registration codes every week. I want to make sure you know what to do if you want to come into the masterclass or get access to the recordings, things like that. If you want to find the code, all you have to do is go in. If you click on the curriculum section, you can see these different, curricula. These are all the recordings, right? So here you can actually get the code to come into the masterclass. The code is the same every week. This is the code for the Q&A section right here where I'm circling my cursor. And so I do that at 2 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. I set that time because a lot of people that were in Europe and other countries wanted a different time. So I decided to do 2 classes instead of 1. Also here, if you want to watch the recordings, you can just click here. So this is session 1. I was actually putting something together for Philadelphia, Malcolm X's birthday. So you can see that here. And then if you want to watch number 2, you can watch the lecture number 2 here. And as I don't know if you guys ever as it comes up, let me turn that down. And so all these recordings are here. All the slides are down here as well. So if you log in at drboycemasterclass.com, you can get access to everything that we do in this class. Most of the recordings are from the previous cohort of the masterclass. These recordings, I don't put them in there because it would be redundant because I'm doing, a similar lecture. But if you want to watch the recording because you can't make it to class, that's okay too. Just feel free to log in, drboycemasterclass.com. And if you want to come hang out with me in Los Angeles, you can go to drboycelosangeles.com. I'll be there this Sunday. Okay, so let's get